meaning consideration for New York Times best-selling short story list, or the Emmys, if it so happens to make it to television, or for the Academy, total Oscar material like Totally, if it so happens to be picked up for a feature-length movie. We are rapidly swooping downward through galaxy after galaxy after galaxy, until we arrive at a planet desperately trying to end it all by plummeting into a nearby ball of blazing, fiery hot plasma. However, as cruel fate would have it, the planet has been consistently failing to terminate its miserable life for billions of years, for it has foolishly gotten itself entrenched in an elliptical curvature of space-time, and has been subjugated to dizzyingly spinning around and around the desired target of obliteration, as many of the sad planet's peers point, laugh, and call it mean and appallingly obscene tauntings. We now slow down, though continue our descent, zooming in closer and closer to the surface of the planet, until we focus upon a town identified as Parallel Paradigms, as we can note by a large aerial sign on a building, and underneath it reads, "Where everything and no things are possible." Sailing in closer still, we arrive at a rather silly spectacle of a man writing a silly little story that, if he be lucky, perhaps will be transfused to at least one other person apart from himself. This man be I, Paradigm Flux. As I was reclining upon my most commonly chosen park bench, in my most beloved park in all the city, I became increasingly filled with a sense of anxiety, as the fellow sitting next to me stretched out one of his eyeball tentacles into my ear canal, and proceeded to sniff about within my brain. He went on to ask me to take note of the Hardys across the street, as his other eyeball tentacle reached across the footpath to lick the face of a kitten that was urinating on a rubbish bin. "Why, certainly, sir, I do indeed see the Hardys over yonder, and what of it?" I said, while I became aware that multiple eyeball tentacles began to grow out of my own face in rapid succession. "Well, it just so happens that I have become privy to knowing that those Hardy Heart helpers rushing about and making and serving their hearty roast beef burger meals don't exist at all, along with the structure they dwell within. They are all a figment of your own smelly mind. How does that make you feel?" said the man with the brain-sniffing, cat-licking eyeball tentacles. Said I, before I was cut off. "I'll tell you how it makes me feel," said Dennis. "Oh, so sorry, I forgot to mention Eyeball Tentacle Man's name is Dennis. At least, that was what his name badge declared his name to be, and everyone knows the name badges never lie in our quaint city-town of Parallel Paradigms. But I digress. "I'll tell you how it makes me feel," said Dennis. "It makes me deliriously infuriated. How dare the city council members decide to marginalise, all the way to the outer outskirts of the centres of prestige and influence, these poor Hardy Heart helpers of such a fine eatery establishment as Hardy's, by eliminating their very existence? Sure, you and I can see them because we are protected by my aluminium foil undergarments. But if you were to step 1,000 metres from the proximity of my underpants, I assure you, dear boy, you would not be able to see the Hardy structure any longer, because it does not exist. You see, my boy? Do you see just how so very important it is to question everything around you, and to look at the familiar as though it was strange and unknown to you? Because, truth be told, everything around you is strange and unknown. It's a terrifying world out there, and you just never know when you could walk past an evil necromancer dressed as a sweet little Girl Scout, who strikes her terrifying and awesome power onto you, causing your flesh to melt and your nucleons to implode, while she feeds on your body's electrons, the electrons that contain your very soul. Eh? Eh? Mark my words well, dear boy, and don't believe for a second that you're safe, just because you seemingly have my eyeball tentacles keeping your brain under safeguard. Because I have reason to believe that the powers that be have devised ways of infiltrating my mind, and are making me go crazy, at least temporarily so. Yes, you don't believe me, but I can be as balmy as they come sometimes. I, like everyone else, am led by unconscious mental processes that can influence my decisions and even my thinking, and these conspiratorial mind infiltrators from City Hall can get inside those places of the brain that none of us sees, and can make one do funny things. Be afraid, dear boy, be very afraid. Don't trust anyone, especially yourself. Every time you think, "Oh, that is a very bigly good idea. I think I will eat this broccoli and ignore the deep-fried Twinkies for today," don't believe it. Aggressively challenge your mind and make sure your brain isn't lying to you. Fear your brain. It is evil, and it is trying to kill you in the most horrifying, despicable ways imaginable. Fear your brain, and fear everything. On and on and on this incessant jibber-jabbering persisted, though truly most extraordinarily fascinating it all was, to be sure. It left me without a single interjected thought of my own to offer. Clearly this world, fabricated by I with writing instrument in hand, was taking an intriguing and wondrously animated life of its own, and even though I am indeed most curious as to the multifarious possibilities this creation is bound to propel itself toward, I determined it necessary to scribble out a gallant conclusion to this incipient episode. Otherwise this eyeball tentacle man here might very well indulge in his barrage of confabulations until the terminus of time. Thus Dennis then took my hand and threw me up on his shoulders, and we rode off into the sunset on a large beach ball, while employing the ever-commodious kinematic equations to ensure measures that we were in no way making infractions upon the speed limit.